You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife, she has completely changed him. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It is not uncommon to find that the victim of the narcissist, usually the intimate partner primary source, ends up changing. Sometimes this is as a consequence of the impact of the abuse. The individual perhaps gains weight or loses weight. They end up becoming withdrawn. They may suddenly take up prolonged and sustained use of drugs or alcohol. They may miss work. They may become withdrawn. They may not go out as much as they once did. It may well be the case that the individual, as a consequence of the repeated abuses that they have been subjected to, morph into somebody else. Invariably it's temporary, and remove them from the abuse, and over time they will recover and return to the person that they once were. But there are also other changes that can be effected as a consequence of the influence of the narcissist, whereby the individual changes because they become such an extension of the narcissist and they swallow the Kool-Aid that has been provided to them by the narcissist, that they morph into a different person. They, in effect, appear to mirror the behaviours of the narcissist. This isn't because they become a narcissist themselves, but rather, in order to please the narcissist, in order, subconsciously, not to threaten control of the narcissist, they become compliant. They agree with the ideas that the narcissist put forward. They agree with the stance that the narcissist might have with regard to a particular circumstance. The views of the narcissist become the views of the victim. The attitudes of the narcissist become the attitudes of the victim. Their behaviour is controlled, so that certain things they once did become off limits. That's not how you behave. That isn't what I like. What you did before wasn't appropriate. We know with Prince Harry, for instance, this has occurred in relation to what he was eating, whereby he's now been encouraged to eat more cleanly. We know with Prince Harry that previously many people knew him as a playboy prince. He was up for larking about. He was likeable in that regard. Not bright, but still got on and did his duty, and people largely liked him. That spark has been drained from him. As Julie Birchall wrote earlier this week, his gingivitis has been drained from within him. But not only has he lost his sense of character as a consequence of his ensnarement by Harry's wife, but he's morphed into something else, a woke bot, churning out incomprehensible word salad that has been poured into his ears, or, in another way, slammed into him by way of the insertion of a chip up his backside, so that he becomes this walking, talking woke bot, spurting out the nonsense that Harry's wife believes in, and believing it himself. The joy from Harry has gone. Once upon a time he would laugh and get along with people. Now he's more likely to be seen scowling at individuals. He's not a happy individual, although he has been brainwashed to believe that he's freer than ever. Of course, what his captor keeps telling him. This change has been noted in a Fox News article by Stephanie Nalalsko, who writes, Prince Harry hated woke nonsense before Harry's wife, claim horrified schoolmates. The Duke of Sussex's classmates record meeting the former Suits star in Tom Quinn's book Gilded Youth, an intimate history of growing up in the royal family. Before meeting Harry's wife, Prince Harry made jokes that we are no longer allowed to make, insisted one former classmate. The claim was made in a new book by author Tom Quinn, titled Gilded Youth, an intimate history of growing up in the royal family. It features exclusive testimony from palace staff with historical sources, as well as royal insiders. It aims to examine the traditional upbringing of the British royal family and how it has impacted them over the years. Quinn also took a close look at the Duke of Sussex's schooling. Now, you can sum that up pretty quickly, can't you? It wasn't very effective. at the prestigious Eton College, which he attended from 1998 to 2003. In the past, I've worked as a journalist for very old-fashioned magazines in England, where most of the readers are people who hunt, shoot and fish, Quinn explained to Fox News Digital. They tend to be very grand, very right-wing. They typically really dislike what they would describe as woke and tree-hugging. They think real country people are defined by the fact that they shoot things. And if you go to a school like Eton, you don't get a broad social mix. It's only people from the old English aristocracy who are very conservative. This is the world that Harry grew up in. His only friends were the sons and some daughters of the old English aristocracy, who are all like this. And so his world was limited by that. One Eton contemporary admitted to Quinn that Harry, 38, hated all that politically correct stuff, all that woke nonsense. He was funny, a bit cynical, and great company, because like the rest of us, he made jokes that we are no longer allowed to make, the source claimed. After Harry's wife came along, he changed completely into what he once would have been the first to mock, a sort of Guardian reading tree hugger. It was all Harry's wife's influence. We used to joke that she must be very good in bed to have turned his head that far. Sources who befriended Harry at Eton alleged that they were stunned by how quickly Harry changed after he met the American actress. The former Suits star, who met Harry in 2016, became the Duchess of Sussex when she married the British Prince in 2018. His friends were horrified because it was almost as if he'd gone over to the enemy, Quinn chuckled. They were very rude about it. When Harry met Harry's wife, they got close very quickly, nature of the narcissistic ensnarement through love bombing. Harry wanted her to meet his friends. It never occurred to him that she might think they were awful, that they would make racist jokes. Harry once famously went to a party dressed up as a Nazi. They wouldn't think anything of that because they never worried about that sort of thing. They thought that kind of thing would mean you were left-wing and a tree hugger. They didn't think it was terrible to make racist jokes. I think they were really shocked, Quinn continued. Harry's wife spent the day apparently telling them that they couldn't make these awful jokes, assertion of control. One of them said at the end of the day, after meeting Harry's wife, they exchanged messages, not with Harry and Harry's wife, but with each other, saying, "Why is Harry going out with this awful woman? She's a tree hugger. She's obsessed with being woke." But I think Harry's world was very split. And Harry's wife is a very powerful personality. Everyone says it. In other words, of course, her narcissism causes her to impress what she wants on other people, forcing them to either not do it and back away or to give in. And of course, Harry, being so susceptible to manipulation, did give in, and very quickly turns into a version of her, according himself, with her views. It's immediately apparent to his friends, who wonder where the Harry that they know and loved had gone to. Quinn's book alleged Harry's friends were not prepared to be reprimanded by Harry's wife, insisting she lacked any sense of humour. Correct. One pal allegedly texted to the other, "OMG, what about her?" with another chiming, "Harry must be fucking nuts." This, of course, was first reported by Tom Bauer in Revenge. It was undeniable to everyone that Harry was captivated by the screen starlet, i.e., he was enthralled to her as a combination of her manipulations and his emotional thinking, causing him in effect to be cunt-struck. As he struggled to be the spare with his elder brother, Prince William, being the heir to the British throne, Harry felt he had to escape, or rather, Harry's wife exploited that by telling him he needed to. However, the prince was not prepared for how adopting Harry's wife's way would make him open to the same press attention he has always hated. I think by adopting completely Harry's wife's view of the world, I think it made it much more difficult for him. Certainly in his relationships with other members of the royal family, Quinn explained. It created this huge split. He feels completely removed from his old life, the one of the British royal family, which is still very conservative. In being loyal to his wife and his new life in the States, he has adopted all the values that come with that, all the ideas, all the outlooks, or more accurately, he has been manipulated into this position and can't see that that's the case. You've got William, who was bought into the traditions of the royal family because he's the heir. He totally believes in the product. And then you've got Harry and Harry's wife who don't believe in the product at all. Harry's wife would believe in the product if she were queen, because then it would suit her needs. But because it doesn't, and because she tried to change the institution and it wouldn't be changed, she therefore rejects it, and therefore she doesn't believe in it. Furthermore, Harry, of course, he goes along with this because he always does what he's told in relation to the way that she behaves. Harry previously described that he fell in love with Harry's wife so incredibly quickly. This, of course, is a red flag. Quinn noted that the prince found the California native's outlook on life incredibly refreshing. I'm sure he does think that while he's being sucked off. A stark comparison to what he was exposed to at Eton. It was as if someone had opened a door to a new world for him, said Quinn. He thought the only world that existed was this world, the one where you laughed at tree huggers, you laughed at the people who didn't like shooting pheasants and deer. That was the only world he knew. And then suddenly he came across a person who didn't share any of those values. I think at first it was a real shock to him. And then, in a funny way, it showed him the way out. His friends at Eton, whom he'd known and hunted with, suddenly felt he was no longer one of them. And ultimately, they went one way, and he moved over to the other side. A former Kensington Palace aide who worked closely with the Duchess of Sussex claimed that Harry was never like this before he met Harry's wife. He had no ideas of his own, claimed the source. He rarely, if ever, spoke about global warming. He was a sort of Tim Nice but dim character who liked getting pissed with his army and Eton friends, did a bit of shooting and fishing, and was otherwise undistinguished. Harry was always going to look for a woman to whip him into shape. Nice chap, but no idea where he was going or what he should do, at least until Harry's wife came along, a friend from Eton added. So all of these observations, again emphasising the way that a narcissist can change the victim. First of all, as a consequence of the application of abuse, but moreover, as in this case, simply causing him to replicate what she wants in order to ensure that he's easily controlled and accords with her outlook on the world, whereby her narcissism decides that adopting a woke approach is the one that's most effective for the pursuit of the prime aims, and therefore Harry has to toe the line in that regard. She doesn't allow him to be Harry. She doesn't allow him to do the things that he wants and enjoys. He has to be assimilated, subsumed into her world, and thus he can be controlled. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.